when was it that you first decided you wanted to be a designer?
Well, I went to a Cass Tech high school in Detroit, and I was on the football team. Now, there's a lot of money for anyone who can spot me on the football team here. It's really hard to figure out which one I am. So notice we played on dirt too. We were tough. Anyway, this despite the really bad football team, it was a great school, kind of like a Boston Latin kind of school is here in Boston. But the great thing is they had all these different curriculums, and so they had this art, this great, amazing art program, and they had a commercial art. Whole commercial art program within the art program, which was, it's kind of unheard of. But you could take, photography and figure drawing and sculpture and, what they call typography, lettering, so commercial art was kind of the equivalent of what we would call graphic design. But because it's old school, it's called commercial art. But the thing that really grabbed me was, I think in 10th grade, there was this will date me, there was this Tylenol cyanide packaging scare. And at that time, things didn't have the safety seals on them. So this is a Tylenol, typical Tylenol bottle from that time. There was no plastic, there was no hard to remove thing before you got to it. It was just like that, it came in the box. So the first day we walk into the class, 10th grade, the teacher, Mr. Tenenbaum, he assigned this project. He said, it was all over the news. It was the first time something like this had happened. People were dying from the cyanide poisoning. And he said, redesign the Tylenol packaging, taking into account, that it has this kind of look that people know of it, what we call brand equity today. But you have to kind of, tweak it. You have to kind of change it so that people now know it's secure. And he had me, because here's something that, it was totally in the news. It was, it was the biggest thing. It was like, it was, you couldn't escape this news. But then it was taking art, this is kind of, I didn't know what design was at that time, taking art and applying it to the real world. And so I was, it was just a sketch concept project, so I don't have my design, the example. But I was taken from that point. And some other projects we did there back in high school I thought were pretty interesting too. So this was my, kind of, I don't know, 10th, 11th grade car design. Yeah. So this was, again, you have to put in context. This was 1982. There were no minivans. So, because being from Detroit, you had to draw cars. And then, of course, mine had to be kind of have some technological features, and I did this cool logo, the Aura. But now that's the name of a car, 20-something years later. Yeah, so that trademark, and soon out the millions will be rolling it. But anyway, so, designed this, car design, which I thought was pretty cool, and it, had a removable back part, which they do now, and it, these kind of gull-wing doors, and back then they didn't have these multi-purpose vehicles, so it was kind of cool. And then, logo design. So this one had really bad word spacing, but it was, in whatever 11th grade in high school. You had to use Letraset, and you had to do all that with like a rapidograph. It was like, wow, this is ancient. And then speaking of rapidographs and compasses with ink in them. So this is like a little type composition design. You had to draw this all by hand. It was painstaking. But it was kind of interesting to be at that kind of stage of design. So.